Hey everyone, so in the previous video we demonstrated how to link certain ingredients to unlock certain classes, and then those classes will place orders with those ingredients in it. But what we haven't done is we haven't demonstrated that linkage to the end user. The end user can kind of piece it together because they're like, okay, I made a hamburger, a warrior showed up, I made a salad, majors show up, but we want it to have a lot more transparency than that. We want the user to intentionally try to focus on certain stats to try to get various classes. And I think that will be some of the more advanced gameplay is you trying to think of what combination would unlock one class. And maybe depending on how far this games go, there'll be like 20 classes or something. And you come up with the right combination and this, elite class shows up and maybe they're a big spender or whatever. And anyways, to make that happen, the game player, the user, needs to know what those stats are. So right now they don't know. They create menu items and then they see certain characters show up. So we want to give them that visibility. So this is display only. The functionality is already in place. We already created the linkage between the meals and the various classes, at least two classes to begin with. Now we want to display that information. So this is purely display. It's really not functional at all. So what we're going to do, we're going to create several text mesh objects, and that when you click on the object that modifies that stat, it will show you a plus sign to indicate that you've added that. So if you click on this 3 times, you'll see 3 plus signs. So I'll tell you what, let's quickly run this and then we'll go through the coding. It's only a few lines. This is going to actually be a very short lesson. So say we choose a bun, no stats increase. We choose a hamburger, there you go, plus HP. Click on another hamburger, it's a double hamburger. We got even more HP, and then we'll put a bun on top. And then we do add to menu, and it resets the stats because you're about to start a new meal. So like I said, you're going to see these values change, but they're not really going to go anywhere because again, we already created that functionality. We already created the link. Now we're just trying to change stats. Okay, so these are Text Mesh Pro objects. So that's just Game Object, 3D Object, and Text Mesh Pro. For whatever reason, and I've ranted about this before, so I'll be brief, this is semi-installed in Unity by default. So the first time you click on Text Mesh Pro, you get this pop-up window saying, do you want to install Text Mesh Pro Essentials? You have to say yes in order to use Text Mesh Pro. And then there's a separate optional one that says, do you want to install examples? You might as well install the examples as well. Why they don't have it fully installed is beyond me, but that's where we are. So you'll get that pop-up. Don't think anything's wrong. Just do the installation. And then it's just creating the Text Mesh Pro objects in the scene. In fact, you can create one and then you can just copy and paste. That way you'll have a consistent look. No, I'm not going to go through all the settings for Text Mesh Pro. I already have a separate video for that, and you can see other demos. It's about the game as a whole that I'm trying to demonstrate. So the main thing is that for Text Mesh Pro objects, you've got this text input field, and that this is what you want it to read. So what's going to happen is by default, it shows the stat and a colon, okay? And then when you click on these objects, this value is going to be concatenated with the plus sign. So in other words, the code is going to say what value is here and add the plus sign to it. So there's no actual scripts attached to the Text Mesh Pro. The scripts are going to be attached here. So let's take a look at the hamburger object. And here's the menu create script. I believe we reviewed in the last one. And you can see there's this new stat text. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So public text mesh pro stat text. So as always, it's public. That way it is accessible in the inspector. If it doesn't need to be set into the inspector, then you can do a private variable. But in this case, we want to be public. So once you put public text mesh pro stat text, it'll create that field. And then you can just drag and drop the corresponding Text Mesh Pro object that you want it to modify. That's why I don't have to say HP, MP, AC, because each object that the script is attached to, for now it's only going to change one stat, so you just have to drag and drop the stat that it's going to change. In the update section, we're going to skip this for the minute because that's the reset. And what we're going to do is, so let's just get rid of the blank space. That doesn't do anything. So if food value is equal to 1,000, so remember the 1,000th place is the hamburger. So you've clicked the mouse on an object. The script is attached to an object. It's saying if the object the script is attached to is equal to 1,000, because again, they have food values. So if that variable is equal to 1,000, then go ahead and modify the stat text object. So that's the object we just linked to. So stat text.getComponent textmeshpro.text plus equals and then the plus sign. So we're saying this is kind of like a calculation when you say you have a variable and you say the variable plus equals a certain number. You're saying take its current value and add to it. Well, since this is text, it's concatenating. So it's not adding per se, it's concatenating. So you're just increasing the amount of characters in this string. So again, you're saying take that object that we just created a link to, we're modifying the text, and that it is going to have a plus sign added to it. And don't get confused that this is a plus sign and this is a plus sign. This could really be anything you want, but I wanted just to show comparatively that you've boosted this stat. If you wanted to, you could actually have you could actually do a calculation, but I didn't feel like doing that. I think at this point in the game, it's just enough to show that you're boosting that stat. And then we already looked at the unlock classes. So far, that's really the only real new coding is that you are concatenating that plus sign to the text portion of that text mesh object that you created. Okay. Now, when you my apologies, had to pause to clear my throat. So what happens is when you click on the text button to serve or to reset, remember we say empty plate now is equal to 0. So we need our script to check for that. So this is what we skipped over. So in the update section, so this happens once per frame, if empty plate now is equal to 0, because again, that's indicating that the object on the plate, or in this case the board, needs to be deleted, then we're going to, again, modify this text mesh object. So start text.getComponent, textmeshpro.text. So that should all look familiar. But now we're saying that it should be equal to start text.gameObject.name. So in other words, I'm now looking at the object and I'm saying what is its name. And as I said, the name matters. So the name is equal almost to the starting text because starting text is HP and a colon. The name is only HP. Don't know if I already said it. I try to avoid using special characters. It's probably okay, but just to be safe, I try to avoid things like colons and things like that in names. So that's why it doesn't just say stat text.gameObject.name. We're also appending the colon onto it because, like I said, I try not to use colons in names just to be safe. You can try it if you want to and see if it creates a problem. So that's why it matters what you call this, because even though this is not displayed on the screen, because again, the display is from here, okay, it matters for the purposes of being able to retrieve what we want the original version to be. So this way you're wiping out all the plus signs. I suppose you could try to do something like a lot of languages have things like left $, where you say, okay, give me the first couple characters from the left. You could do something like that, but this is easy enough. You're just saying, give me the name of the stat text object, append a colon to it, and we're good to go because the name matches the text of that object. So really clean, really simple. So you're creating that variable, You're checking to see if that has been changed. So that was already put into place. So again, the idea of using functionality that scales well, we didn't have to create a new indicator. And then we're resetting the name. And then in the original place, when we click on the food value, we change the corresponding object. And then it's just rinse and repeat. So like this one, I think is looking for salad. So this one, it would be maybe MP. Let's see if I can quickly do that. So salad links out to, let's take MP, put it there, and do the same thing, rinse and repeat. And since it's linked to a different object, I don't have to change all this coding. I'm just saying that the object is going to be modified and the object is a different object. So I don't have to do any special coding. I think that's all that I have to do. So again, scale well. So if I click on that, MP should increase. And it did. All right, I think that's it for this tutorial. So we are getting very close to the core functionality being in place. I mentioned in the previous video maybe adding some kind of review system. That way it can be kind of humorous, again, have some light storytelling, some kind of Yelp equivalent where the person gives you a good or a bad review. And I also mentioned that maybe once a week, depending on how well you did, that could spawn a boss, and then the boss is like a big spender. So again, that's something you're unlocking. So that would be one of the draws to this game. Like I said, the core functionality is just a food sim, a food prep sim. So the hook, what makes it unique, is the fact that it's for RPG heroes and that you're trying to unlock all these different classes and that there's bosses and things like that. And that's probably going to be the deepest part of this is trying to unlock all those different characters. And like I said, 20, 30, whatever amount of classes makes sense. Maybe there would also be just as there's bosses, maybe there would be like an elite version of a warrior. So you have like a generic warrior, but if you make just the right combination, you might bring in like a named version of that warrior, and they're a big spender or whatever. So certainly there's a lot that we can do with this, and I think that's it for this video. So I hope you continue to find this interesting. Leave your comments, leave your suggestions, and so that should about do it. And please enjoy the rest of your day.